The snow had been falling for so long that nobody could remember when it started. Whenever it stopped, it returned almost immediately, piling up across the entire world. No one even knew how many months had passed. Whenever the little girl went outside, she saw people standing completely still, frozen in place as if they were playing freeze tag. She could tap them or shout for them to unfreeze, but none of them ever moved. People said it happened because they were exposed to the terrifying blue storm too many times. Nobody really knew the truth, though. With no one around to explain what was happening, the little girl decided to be brave and search for her mom and dad. Since they were far away, she first decided to look for Sionu's parents. Sionu's mom and dad had gone out a week earlier to find food, but they still had not returned. Luckily, Sionu lived only 3 doors down. When the little girl knocked, he opened the door. She was relieved to see him. Sionu was 10 years older than her, and at first she had found him scary because he barely talked, but things had changed between them. Since she talked too much, Sionu gave her a notebook and told her to practice writing. Those memories had all been recorded in the notebook. Now, Sionu was sitting in a corner of the library, reading through the little girl's writing and correcting her mistakes. One sentence caught his attention because she had written that he had a robot leg. Without saying much, Sionu corrected it to a prosthetic leg. The little girl watched him scribble through her notebook and asked if she had made a lot of mistakes. Sionu told her she had. She immediately called herself a dummy, but Sionu reminded her that she was 8 years old. Then she turned the teasing back on him and asked what that made him. He replied that he was 9 years smarter than her. The little girl pointed at him and accused him of being a high school student who was making fun of an elementary school student. Sionu corrected her again. He was not in high school, and she was not an elementary school student either. Neither of them had even been able to enroll because the schools had shut down. That reminded the little girl of something her parents had told her. They had promised that she would become an elementary school student and said they would come back after 100 nights, but they never did. The little girl suddenly became quiet and pulled her blanket back over herself. Sionu then asked where she had said her parents were again. Busan. She had an ID card with her name on it, Isiok Choi, and explained that her parents lived right near the beach in Busan. Before she could say much more, a sudden gust of wind made her nervous, and she hid deeper under the blanket. Sionu told her there was no reason to be scared because it was only the wind. He then limped away. But the little girl quickly grabbed his pants and called his name. She asked him to promise that after he found his mom and dad, he would take her home too. Sionu hesitated. Busan was too far away. The little girl offered him a deal. If he was scared to go, she would give him whoopee once they reached Busan. Sionu had no idea what whoopee was. She explained that whoopee was the stuffed puppy she had owned since she was little. It protected her whenever she was scared. Sionu corrected her again, saying he was not scared. That was the problem. After thinking for a moment, he decided that for now they should simply go to bed because blue snow was falling outside. Her notebook continued to explain the strange disaster. Sometimes the snow was white, sometimes it was blue. Unlike the white snow, the blue snow did not pile up. It simply fell from the sky. Sionu had no explanation for it. He only called it blue because of its color. But everyone knew one thing about it. When too much blue snow touched a person, their body became stiff, just like the frozen people standing outside. They stopped moving and never moved again. The world had ended because this blue winter simply refused to stop. The scene then shifted to Sionu putting on his prosthetic leg while the little girl stood nearby looking outside. She sniffled as she stared through the window, and Sionu noticed her. According to the little girl's notebook, they had also met people from the church his parents used to attend. Those people had shown Sionu where his mom and dad had gone. Sionu was speaking with the church members when the little girl suddenly started coughing. He asked the men to take her with them. One of them looked at the girl and asked if she was Sionu's sister. Sionu quickly explained that she was not his sister. They were only neighbors. Her grandmother had passed away, so he could not leave her alone. He also believed that she was coming down with a cold. The man apologized, explaining that the crisis had been difficult for everyone and that they did not have enough food to take in another person. Sionu admitted that he was not in a position to take care of someone either. The churchman told him to come back after finding his parents and said he would inform the pastor. Then he mentioned that there was a pharmacy in the same direction. Sionu's mother had gone. It might be worth checking. Sionu returned to the little girl who was standing alone in the snow. She asked what he had been doing and whether he had found out where her parents went. He told her yes. Just then, the churchman called Sionu back and tossed him a can of food. He told him to split it between himself and the little girl and to put it away quickly before anyone else noticed. Another storm seemed to be coming. The man warned Seonu to take shelter and start a fire beforehand. Seonu thanked him. To the little girl, Seonu seemed like a real grown-up. He could talk to other adults without any trouble. He knew where to go, where to find shelter, and how to start a fire. He seemed to know everything. He fell down often because of his prosthetic leg, but he never cried. That was how the little girl saw him. But the reality was very different. Seonu was just as lost as everyone else. He did not truly understand what was happening, and he did not even know how to start a fire without a lighter. Still, he prepared a meal for the little girl and then went into the room where she was sleeping. He called her name and told her to wake up, drink some warm water, and let him clean her up. The little girl's notebook recorded that Seonu looked after her whenever she was sick. The problem was that Seonu had no idea what he was doing. He remembered that whenever he had a fever as a child, his mother would cool him down with a cold towel, so he tried to do the same thing. The little girl told him that the towel was cold. Seonu told her to bear with it, but inside, he was completely lost. He did not know what he was supposed to do. He only wished his mother were there. Then the little girl began crying and calling for her own mother. Seonu pressed the wet cloth against her forehead and told her he would go find antipyretic medicine. Until then, she needed to sleep. The little girl begged him not to leave. Seonu told her to hang in there just this once. He promised he would not leave her alone again, but she began crying even harder and said she wanted to go home. Seonu told her that she could only go home after her coughing stopped. The little girl immediately asked whether he would really take her home once she stopped coughing. He agreed. She smiled and said she would wait. Seonu explained that he was only going to check whether his mom and dad were nearby and stop by the pharmacy. He would be back soon. Before leaving, he told her to write today's entry in the notebook. The little girl said there was nothing to write because she had spent the entire day in bed, so Seonu told her to draw something instead. She agreed. As Seonu walked outside, he began worrying about what might happen if blue snow started falling while he was gone. He did not want to leave the little girl alone for too long, but he also could not afford to miss the chance to find his parents. So he kept watch as he traveled through the snow. Meanwhile, the little girl began filling her notebook with drawings. She drew herself playing, her house, and memories of Christmas with her family. She even drew a bright, sunny morning beneath a beautiful sky, a memory from a time when the world had still been normal. Far away, Seonu suddenly noticed several people standing in the snow. Then, something caught his attention. One of the men was wearing a muffler. It looked exactly like his father's. Seonu immediately approached them, believing that he had finally found his mom and dad. As he got closer, relief began to fill him. He had not missed them. But when he reached them, that relief disappeared. The people standing there were frozen. Seonu was stunned. He rushed toward them and brushed the snow away from their bodies. Then he saw their faces. It really was his mom and dad. Seonu embraced his father and could barely contain the despair inside him. Why had they gone out into the blue snow? Why had they left him behind? What was he supposed to do now? He did not know how to survive in a world like this. He could barely even walk properly. For a moment, Seonu looked completely broken. The little girl's drawing showed him taking care of her while she was alone. She was lying in bed when the blue snow suddenly began falling outside, while Seonu was still out searching for medicine. Realizing that he was exposed to the blue snow, she decided to take the umbrella and go after him. She waited for Seonu near a traffic signal, standing in the blue snowfall with the umbrella in her hands. She had gone there because she wanted to protect him from the blue snow and help him get back safely. The blue snow could freeze anyone within minutes. For a moment, Seonu wondered what would happen if he simply stopped fighting. What if he gave up and allowed himself to freeze too? Then he remembered the medicine. That thought gave him just enough strength to keep moving. Seonu made his way to the pharmacy and searched through it until he finally found the medicine he needed. He grabbed it and rushed outside. By then, the snow had stopped. Seonu decided to return. But as he made his way back, something caught his attention. The little girl was lying in the snow. She was holding an umbrella. There was blood around her. Seonu froze in shock. He called out her name. She did not answer. The drawings in the notebook had stopped. The truth became painfully clear. She had followed him with the umbrella because she wanted to protect him from the blue snow, and now she was gone. Seonu carried her back and placed her in bed, the medicine still clutched in his hand. He did not know what to do. Then he noticed her notebook lying nearby. A gust of wind turned one of the pages. On it was a drawing of Seonu, the little girl, and her parents together. That was enough to break him. Seonu picked up the notebook. Then, with everything he had left, he wrote one final entry. The little girl had stopped coughing, and as he had promised, he was going to take her home. Seonu stared at the map on the wall. He was screwed. He had no idea which way to go. After the little girl's death, Seonu had started writing in her notebook himself. The first thing he admitted was how hopeless the journey felt. He had never even liked stepping outside the front door. There was no way he could have imagined traveling all the way to Busan on foot. At the church, one of the men gave Seonu some warm water. He quietly took it while the man told him that he was a strong kid. Things might get difficult, but he believed Seonu would get through them. Seonu simply replied that he would. The little girl's body was beside him. One of the church members asked whether Seonu had come to pray for the little girl. Seonu said no. He had only come because he needed directions to Busan. The man asked whether he was really planning to make such a long trip under these conditions. Seonu said yes. Another man said he had traveled around enough to know how to read a map. He asked Seonu to show it to him so he could mark the route. The men began drawing the path Seonu would need to follow. Then the same church member who had previously given Seonu food spoke up. He said nobody was going to stop the kid. A child was about to walk out into the snowy storm toward almost certain death, and everyone was simply letting him go. He told Seonu to stop dragging around the dead body and stay there with the adults. Church member shouted, "You can't decide that." The blonde man immediately challenged him. Why isn't this the right thing to do? Was it really so difficult to share some food and let Seonu sit by the fire? The church member snapped that they barely had enough food for themselves and accused the blonde man of trying to play the savior. The blonde man laughed and admitted that he might be right. He said Seonu might actually be more useful than him. If the kid was quick on his feet, maybe he could even bring them some good fortune. Another church member angrily asked why they should be responsible for Seonu. Seonu had said he was going to find his parents. The blonde man mocked the idea. If Seonu had found them, would he really have come back to the church alone? They had only left him to manage on his own a few days earlier, and now the little girl was dead. Seonu was not even old enough to take care of himself. The church members argued that they were not the ones who should have to take responsibility. They said the blonde man only talked about good fortune because he was an outsider who did not know the situation. They knew better. They had heard Seonu's parents praying before everything happened. According to them, Seonu was a useless burden who could not even walk properly. The blonde man looked at Seonu and acknowledged that he really did have trouble walking. That was unfortunate. The church member became angry again. He pointed out that they were all grown adults and said Seonu could not simply come there expecting them to protect him. Then he pointed toward the little girl's body and suggested that Seonu might not even be in his right mind anymore. Seonu finally shouted back. He said he was only trying to keep a promise he had made before laying the little girl to rest. He had never asked them to protect him. He had never asked them to accept him. He only needed directions. Seonu stood up and apologized before saying that he would leave. A woman from the church told him that he could rest a little longer and not worry about what had been said. But Seonu lost his balance and fell back onto the bench. The woman immediately asked whether he was all right. Seonu was embarrassed. He eventually left the church anyway. In the notebook, he wrote that it felt like he had no other choice. Nobody tried to stop him, but it did not matter. He had only needed directions. Seonu continued through the snow. Then he slipped and fell. The little girl's body was still with him. That small fall reminded him of how helpless he really was. He admitted that he had still carried a little hope, but all it did was make him realize his place in the ruined world. He kept walking uncertainly, lost in thought and unable to help anyone. Eventually, Seonu found a house with the door left open. Ever since the disaster began, he had done nothing but hide under his parents' care. Now that they were gone, he could not stop wondering how someone like him was supposed to keep living. The house was dark. Inside, he found a note on the table. It was addressed to whoever found it and asked them to look after Choco. Seonu stared at the note, unsure what to do. He carried the little girl's body inside and placed her on a bed. He was hungry. It was cold. The living room was freezing, so he decided to settle down in another room. Then he noticed something nearby. A little dog was lying on the t-shirt of its owner. Seonu realized that it must be Choco. The dog had been dead for some time. He wondered why it was lying in front of that door. Seonu opened the door and immediately saw the horrible scene inside. Choco's owner had taken his own life. The body was hanging there. Seonu quickly closed the door again. The sight left him in despair. His thoughts became darker as he wrote in the notebook. He wondered how he would die. Would he die like his mother or father? Would he die like the man who had hanged himself? Or would he die like the little girl? She had died because of him. Seonu tried to stop thinking about it. He kept telling himself to think about something else, anything else, but he could not. His mind kept returning to that door. The darkness. The dog. Then he noticed the dog food sitting in the corner. Seonu stared at it. He was hungry enough to consider eating it, but he could not help wondering whether it was really okay for a human to eat dog food. Back at the church, a cooking pot sat over the fire. The people inside were eating a warm meal. The blonde man stood outside eating while looking into the church. Inside, everyone had hot food and a fire to keep warm. His eyes moved to the cross on the wall. Beside it was the sentence, "Christ dwells in me, and I abide in him." The blonde man looked at the words for a moment. Then he picked up his bag and shovel. Without saying anything, he walked away from the church. Seonu wrapped the little girl's body carefully and continued walking through the snow. The snow was so thick that every step became a struggle. His prosthetic leg already made walking difficult, and the deep snow only made it worse. In his notebook, Seonu admitted that he was already slow enough as it was. Now the snow was making everything even harder. After stopping to catch his breath, Seonu noticed something unusual. A path had been cleared through the snow. Someone had passed through here. Another line of handwriting appeared in the notebook. If he was slow, then so be it. He just had to roll with the punches. Seonu stared at the path and wondered whether a survivor had made it. What if someone had passed through here? What if that person was in danger? Instead of turning away, Seonu decided to follow the trail. As he stepped onto the cleared path, walking suddenly became a little easier. Another line appeared in the notebook. Even if he had to rely on chance or leech off other people's efforts, he just needed to keep moving. Seonu continued down the path. Then another passage appeared. Wasn't he still young enough to be blindly hopeful? He already had too much on his mind, but growing up too early would not do him any favors. The words were followed by a familiar passage from the Bible. "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters." The words ended like the closing line of a sermon. But then Seonu saw something ahead. A man was lying in the snow. Seonu immediately stopped. The scene was horrifying. The man's body was covered in blood, but the body itself had not yet been completely frozen. The fact that there was no thick layer of snow covering him made it clear that he had not been lying there for very long. Seonu looked around nervously. Who had done this? And if it had happened recently, what if the person responsible was still nearby? He realized that following this path might have been a mistake. He needed to get away from there. But before Seonu could leave, he noticed the trail of blood leading away from the body. Then a voice called out, "Is anyone there?" The voice said that he had heard footsteps and begged whoever was nearby to save him. He said that he was going to die at this rate. Seonu stayed quiet at first. Then he carefully approached the voice and asked who was there. Looking down into a container buried in the snow, he finally saw the person trapped inside. It was the blonde man from the church. Seonu was shocked. Why was he here? The blonde man called Seonu by name. Then he said that he had been looking for him and joked that God really did love him. But Seonu immediately noticed something else. The blonde man was holding the shovel, and there was blood on it. Seonu wondered whether this was another stroke of misfortune following him. He asked the blonde man why he had been looking for him and what he was doing there. The blonde man explained that he had stopped further ahead and ended up getting stuck. He said nobody would have expected a truck to be lying there like that. Seonu asked about the others from the church. The blonde man answered that he had ditched them and come alone. Seonu asked why. The blonde man said that he was taking Seonu to his destination. Then he explained his reasoning. Seonu could not read a map. He had gotten a little girl killed within only a few days, and apparently he could barely walk properly because of his leg. The blonde man asked whether someone like Seonu did not need a guardian. He added that Seonu did not exactly have many options. Seonu quietly started stepping away. The blonde man immediately called after him. He told Seonu that he could not just leave. He had said that Seonu was the reason he was there. Then he pleaded with him again. Was Seonu really going to leave someone who had come all this way to help him? If the blue snow started falling, the blonde man would die. He did not want to die like that. He did not want to die a meaningless death. Seonu stopped. He could hear the desperation in the man's voice. The blonde man called Seonu's name again, crying out from inside the container. Seonu finally turned back, but he still had one question. He pointed toward the bloody body and asked about it. The scene looked like a homicide. Had the blonde man done it? The blonde man admitted that he had. Then he quickly explained that the dead man had been a robber and that he had only fought back in self-defense. Seonu thought about it. Then he told the blonde man to drop whatever he was holding. Only then would Seonu lower the rope and help him out. The blonde man agreed. He dropped the shovel and said that this was fine. Seonu lowered the rope and began pulling him up. After struggling for a while, Seonu finally managed to get the blonde man out. He thought he was done pulling him up. But then he noticed something. The blonde man was still holding the shovel. Before Seonu could react, the blonde man suddenly reached toward his head. Seonu froze in shock. The blonde man called him nice. Then he grabbed Seonu over the mouth. Everything became blurry. Seonu began to lose consciousness. When he finally opened his eyes again, he was lying somewhere unfamiliar. The blonde man was nearby, reading through the notebook while casually singing. Seonu stared at him in confusion. "What is going on?" The blonde man noticed that he was awake. Seonu asked where they were and what the man had done. The blonde man explained that they were simply in a random place he had found to get them out of the snow. He said he had not done anything to Seonu. Seonu had passed out, so he had simply laid him down. The blonde man then apologized and explained that he had thought he saw another robber farther away, but he had been mistaken. He also had not expected there to be something hard beneath the snow. Seonu immediately noticed the notebook in his hands. He told the blonde man not to read it without permission and demanded it back. The blonde man tossed the notebook toward him. He explained that it had fallen out while he was going through Seonu's belongings to see how much food he had. Then he casually mentioned the drawings inside. The little girl's drawings were pretty good. Seonu looked at him. Then the blonde man revealed one more thing. Yes, it was okay for a human to eat dog food. And he had even left a little message in the notebook. Seonu froze. The words about rolling with the punches, the encouragement to keep moving, the warning not to mature too early, even the strange biblical passage. It was the blonde man. And from that moment on, a murderer named Chan Woo began accompanying Seonu. Chan Woo and Seonu stood in front of the map and studied the route to Busan. Chan Woo explained that the route itself was simple. They only had to turn at one point, follow the main road straight ahead, and they would eventually reach the toll gate. After that, they could take the highway. Chan Woo was not sure how much snow had piled up along the way, but he estimated that the journey would take around 2 weeks. Then he looked at Seonu's leg. He asked how bad it really was because he had seen Seonu staggering around the church like a baby roe deer. Seonu explained that he used a prosthetic leg. Chan Woo asked whether it had always been like that or whether Seonu simply did not have the original leg anymore. He wanted to know which leg it was. Chan Woo reached toward it. Seonu told him it was the right leg, from the thigh down. He had lost it in a car accident. Chan Woo said Seonu had been unlucky. Then he asked whether that meant Seonu could not run at all. Seonu explained that running was out of the question. There was so much snow that even walking was already difficult. Chan Woo realized that meant the trip would probably take even longer. They would also need more food. There was only one resting area along the route, so Chan Woo decided they needed to stock up before reaching the highway. Seonu asked whether Chan Woo knew somewhere they could get enough food. Chan Woo said he did. It was just around the corner and would take less than 3 minutes to reach. Seonu immediately pointed out the obvious problem. Blue snow was falling. Chan Woo brushed it off and said that a little exposure would not kill them. The place was extremely close. Seonu looked at the streets around them. Bodies were scattered everywhere, frozen by the blue snow. He could not believe Chan Woo was serious. Seonu said he would rather wait. But Chan Woo grabbed him by his scarf and pulled him along, and Chan Woo eventually jumped from the first floor of a building. Seonu followed. They both landed in the snow. Chan Woo immediately told him to keep moving because the place was this way. As they hurried forward, Seonu looked at the little girl's wrapped body. The sight reminded him of everything he had lost. His parents had been frozen in the snow. The little girl was dead. And now he was walking through the same disaster that had taken them both away. Chan Woo suddenly grabbed Seonu and pulled him forward. He asked what was wrong and jokingly wondered whether Seonu had asthma or something. Seonu pointed out that the blue snow was falling. If they did not get inside soon, they were going to die. Chan Woo called him a scaredy cat. He reminded Seonu that he had already said they were not going to die. They would reach the place in no time. Chan Woo told Seonu to take a deep breath and start walking. He would clear the path, and Seonu only had to follow. Seonu reluctantly agreed. Chan Woo then asked whether Seonu wanted him to carry him. Seonu refused. This was the first time they had walked together through the blue snowfall. Until now, Seonu had done everything he could to avoid it. The cold was brutal. But Chan Woo had been right. It was not nearly as unbearable as Seonu had expected. That left Seonu wondering about something. If the cold itself was not enough to freeze a person, then what exactly was the condition that caused people to freeze? Seonu and Chanwoo eventually reached a market. Chanwoo found a locked entrance and opened it. Behind the shutter was an underground storage room that had remained almost completely intact. A roller shutter covered the entrance, and Chanwoo had the key. Considering how long the disaster had lasted, it was hard to believe the place had gone for months without being looted. Chanwoo asked Seonu what he thought. There was food everywhere. He told Seonu to eat as much as he wanted. Seonu looked around the underground store and became suspicious. How did Chanwoo know about this place? Was he the owner? Chanwoo said no. He had simply come across it by chance. Seonu had no idea how Chanwoo had managed to find a place like this, but he decided not to ask any further. As Seonu explored the store, he remembered something the church members had said. He asked Chanwoo whether they had not called him useless when it came to finding food. Chanwoo laughed and asked whether Seonu actually remembered those passing comments. Then he admitted the truth. He had kept this place secret because he did not want the church members getting their hands on it. At first, Chanwoo had thought he could trust the church. But it turned out that it was barely a church at all. It was only a front for people looking out for themselves. Chanwoo believed things had gotten worse after the man who had yelled at Seonu took control. As for the pastor, Chanwoo thought he was a fool for letting it happen. Seonu then asked Chanwoo whether he did not believe in God. If he did not, why had he stayed with those people? Chanwoo answered that he did believe in God. Seonu asked whether it was really okay for him to talk about the church like that. Chanwoo did not see the problem. He said there was a difference between believing in God and believing in the church. He believed in God. That was enough for him. God loved him. Seonu could not help noticing how often Chanwoo brought up God's love. To Seonu, there always seemed to be some mention of God whenever Chanwoo spoke. But Seonu himself had never cared much about God or religion. He had not gone to church like his parents. And if there really was a God, he could not understand why that God would allow the snow to continue falling. Then Seonu asked the question that mattered most. Why was Chanwoo helping him? Chanwoo looked at him and gave a surprisingly simple answer. Seonu was a little lamb. If he went alone, he probably would not last long. He was scared of everything. He did not know how to read directions. And according to Chanwoo, he was basically useless. So Seonu should not think of having someone accompany him as a bad thing. He was fortunate to have Chanwoo. Seonu did not reply. Chanwoo continued. He admitted that he was simply bored. He had no real goal of his own anymore. Then he handed Seonu something. Written on it were the words 1 + 1. Chanwoo explained that he had decided to piggyback on Seonu's goal for a while. He hoped the two of them would get along. Seonu stared at the words. Piggyback. The world had ended, and this man was offering to travel with him simply because he was bored. Seonu wondered whether he should really trust a religious zealot who also happened to be a murderer. Then he looked at the little girl's body. Chanwoo was someone Seonu still could not completely figure out, but having an adult beside him was already making a difference. For that reason, Seonu decided to keep going with him. He warned Chanwoo that if Chanwoo became frustrated by how slowly he moved, there was nothing Seonu could do about it. Chanwoo told him not to worry. He already knew Seonu was slow as hell. Then, as if the conversation had suddenly become much lighter, Chanwoo held up 2 bags of chips. He asked Seonu which flavor he preferred, onion or original. Seonu thought about how casually Chanwoo had dismissed his worries. Then he chose original. Chanwoo said he preferred onion. After days of walking along the highway, Seonu and Chanwoo finally reached the area near the toll gate. They had stopped keeping track of the days, but it had to have been more than 2 weeks. Tunnels were the easiest places to travel through because the solid ground beneath their feet made walking much simpler. Everywhere else was a struggle. The snow was so deep that every step became exhausting. In his notebook, Seonu admitted that maybe the endless snow was not entirely bad. It had kept them from running into too many other people. Even so, they occasionally came across people who had been frozen in place. If Chanwoo had not gone ahead and cleared the path, Seonu doubted he would have made it this far. At first, Chanwoo had seemed strange. But the more time Seonu spent with him, the more normal he seemed. He talked a little strangely, but Seonu had gotten used to it. Other than the difficulty of the journey, they had not run into any major problems. The little girl's body was also still doing fine. It was not showing signs of decay. The main thing they had to watch was the sky. Thankfully, the blue snow did not fall constantly. Whenever it started, they would either take shelter inside the nearest car or, if there was nothing nearby, Chanwoo would somehow manage to set up a large tent in less than 10 minutes. That was how they had made it this far without freezing. Seonu finished writing and looked toward Chan-woo, who was still standing outside. He told him to stop standing in the blue snow and come inside. Chan-woo said it would probably stop soon, then told Seonu to stop being so afraid and help him search the cars. He had already tested it himself. Seonu was shocked. Why would Chan-woo test something like that when he could have died? Chan-woo simply said that he had been curious. He explained that the blue snow had not frozen him. It had just been regular cold, so Seonu went back inside. He then asked whether the blue snow was really less dangerous than they thought. What about all the people they had seen frozen to death? Chan-woo immediately admitted that people could absolutely die from it. The blue snow could freeze someone solid almost instantly. Seonu said nothing. Chan-woo told him not to go back inside yet because the blue snowfall had almost completely stopped. Seonu asked what the condition was. Why did it sometimes freeze people and sometimes not? Chan-woo admitted that he did not know. Maybe he had simply gotten lucky that day. Maybe the blue snow had not been strong enough. Maybe some people simply could not handle the fear. Or maybe, as Chan-woo liked to claim, he was simply God's favorite. Seonu immediately called him out for bringing up God again. He asked why Chan-woo still believed in God after everything that had happened. Chan-woo asked whether Seonu had a problem with that. Seonu said God had done nothing but bring disaster. People had suffered and died, and if God really loved humanity, why had he allowed all of this to happen? Chan-woo asked why Seonu thought that way. Then he pointed out that God had just given them chocolate. Seonu immediately said the chocolate had not come from God. Chan-woo had found it himself. Seonu questioned how anyone could place their faith in an invisible God when one moment they were crying and the next they were laughing. He asked whether it did not become exhausting. Chan-woo did not answer. He simply smiled. Then he turned the question back on Seonu. Why was Seonu going through all this trouble for a corpse? Seonu gave the same answer as always. He had promised to take her home. Chan-woo disagreed. That promise no longer meant anything. She was already dead. According to Chan-woo, Seonu was only clinging to a promise that had become impossible to fulfill. Seonu did not answer. Chan-woo asked whether he was feeling drained. Again, Seonu stayed silent. Chan-woo sighed and asked if Seonu was really going to spend the whole journey in silence with an emotionally drained fool like him. He joked that maybe somebody had been pushing them along this entire time. Seonu opened one of the cars. Inside, he found a cigarette box and a lighter. He picked up the cigarette and stared at it. Before he could do anything else, Chan-woo suddenly put a piece of chocolate into Seonu's mouth. Chan-woo asked whether it was delicious. He proudly claimed that he was the best. Chan-woo ate the chocolate. Chan-woo then told him to dust himself off and keep going. As Seonu continued walking, one thought crossed his mind. The little girl probably would have liked chocolate too. Seonu continued writing in the notebook. Eventually, they stopped at a rest area to stock up on food and spend the night. Seonu remembered coming there with his parents when he was younger. The place had once been packed with people. Now the emptiness made it almost impossible to recognize. But the rest area was not completely empty. There were several people who were already dead, and one person was still unconscious. Seonu noticed him and asked whether he was still breathing. Chan-woo checked and said that Seonu was right. The man appeared to have simply passed out. Seonu was immediately alarmed. If the blue snow started falling again, the man would die. Even if it did not, he could still freeze to death from the cold. Chan-woo said it was not their problem. Seonu remained where he was. Then he looked back at the unconscious man. Holding the little girl's body tightly, he repeated that the man was going to die. That finally made Chan-woo stop. Together, they dragged the unconscious man to safety. In his notebook, Seonu wrote that Chan-woo's help was the reason they were able to rescue him. The man's name was Jae-hyun Lim, and the moment he regained consciousness, he immediately started causing trouble. He yelled at them to stay away. He called them freaks and accused them of being cannibals. He said they were not going to eat him. Seonu realized what had happened. Jae-hyun must have seen the little girl's body. Then, after going through their belongings without permission, he had jumped to the wrong conclusion. Chan-woo looked at the situation and said that this was exactly why they should have left him to die. Seonu could not completely argue with that, but he could not simply condemn a living person to death. He told Jae-hyun to calm down. They had only brought him inside after finding him unconscious. That was all. Jae-hyun remained suspicious. He said Seonu could be lying. Then he demanded an explanation for the corpse. He thought he knew exactly what kind of people they were. Seonu tried to explain. The little girl was his neighbor. But before he could finish, Chan-woo cut him off. He told Jae-hyun that it was none of his business. If Jae-hyun kept acting up, Chan-woo would simply pretend they had never saved him and throw him straight back into the snow. Jae-hyun became furious, but Chan-woo told him to calm down and asked where he had come from. Jae-hyun looked confused. Chan-woo repeated the question. Did he come from the north or the south? Seo-nu and Chan-woo were heading south toward Busan. There were no signs of anyone traveling ahead of them, which meant Jae-hyun had likely come from the south. That made Chan-woo suspicious. If Jae-hyun was so terrified, there might be something dangerous further down the road. Jae-hyun finally explained. The people he had warned them about were everywhere. They were even around the interchange. They were hunting for prey. Seo-nu asked what he meant by prey. Jae-hyun answered that he meant people. Seo-nu could hardly believe it. Human flesh. He thought something like that only happened in movies. While speaking, he adjusted the coverings around the little girl's body. Jae-hyun explained that it was the kind of thing usually seen in television shows, except some unstable people thought it was cool and had actually started doing it. He warned Seo-nu that they were better off turning back, especially because Seo-nu had an injured kid with him. Jae-hyun then looked at Seo-nu's leg. Seo-nu immediately became wary. Chan-woo quickly lied and said it was only a minor sprain from sleeping on the snow. Seo-nu agreed with him. Neither of them wanted Jae-hyun to know about Seo-nu's prosthetic leg. Jae-hyun gave them another warning. He said those people would probably love it if some sicko showed up carrying a dead body and 2 people with him. Chan-woo immediately told him to watch his mouth. Then he mocked Jae-hyun's attitude and asked whether he was finished. Jae-hyun sarcastically thanked them for saving him. Chan-woo told him to thank Seo-nu instead. After all, Seo-nu was the one who had insisted on rescuing him. Jae-hyun looked at Seo-nu. Then, reluctantly, he thanked him. Seo-nu did not reply. Jae-hyun Lim decided to continue traveling with Seo-nu and Chan-woo. Chan-woo made it clear that they would only share their food with Lim if he helped with the journey. With no other choice, Lim joined them. As they continued walking through the snow, Seo-nu struggled to keep moving. Lim noticed and helped him before he could fall. Seo-nu thanked him for saving him. Lim immediately told him to stop slowing him down and stay back. Then Lim called out to Chan-woo and told him they should switch positions so Lim could shovel the snow ahead. Seo-nu watched them and realized that Lim, despite his terrible attitude, was still pulling his weight. He had the instincts of someone who had survived for a long time and knew exactly what he was doing. Chan-woo also seemed more relaxed now that someone else could take turns clearing the snow. As for Lim, he still thought Seo-nu was simply injured. From Lim's perspective, Seo-nu was barely helping at all. He was mostly just carrying around a corpse. Seo-nu had been hiding the truth from him for days, but sooner or later, Lim was going to discover that Seo-nu's leg was not simply injured. Seo-nu had no idea how Lim would react. Would he react the same way the people at the church had? He did not know. Later, the 3 of them reached another place where they could take shelter. Lim looked around and said that, for now, there were no signs of the freaks they had heard about. He suggested that they take shelter inside the building. Once they were safely inside, they checked the route on the map. Lim pointed out the areas where the cannibals usually moved. They had bases around the terminal and near a seafood restaurant by an alley. There was supposed to be another group around the intersection as well, although Lim did not know the exact location. Still, they might get lucky. The people hunting others did not move around every day in this weather. Usually, they searched for prey by following the traces their targets left behind. Seo-nu asked how Lim knew so much about them. Lim explained that he had already had more than enough trouble dealing with those bastards. According to him, if someone moved fast enough, there was a good chance of avoiding them. The problem was that Seo-nu could not move fast. That made Seo-nu flinch. Lim looked at his leg again and asked when it was going to heal. He pointed out that Seo-nu seemed to be limping more and more. Seo-nu explained that he kept re-injuring it after first spraining it. Lim did not seem impressed. He asked whether the injury was going to stay that way forever. Seo-nu was already slow, and stumbling through the snow while carrying a dead body was only making things harder. Chan-woo listened quietly. Then he asked whether they could simply hit the road while the blue snow was falling. Lim immediately called the idea ridiculous. He asked whether Chan-woo had a death wish. Chan-woo insisted that they should be fine. Then he suggested another solution. What if they diverted the attention of the people hunting them somewhere else? Lim asked how they were supposed to do that. Chan-woo said he would go first and lead them away. He could clear a path, set off a flare, and then run. Even if they noticed him, Chan-woo believed he was fast enough to escape on his own. Besides, in a country without guns, he did not think they would be able to catch him easily. Both Seo-nu and Lim were surprised by the suggestion. Chan-woo continued. He would lure them away and take the long route. That way, Seonu and Lim could continue later when it was safe. Lim looked at him in disbelief. All that trouble for Seonu? Chanwoo simply said yes. Lim sarcastically called it an honor to be in the presence of a saint. Chanwoo replied that if someone volunteered for something dangerous, the least they could do was support him. Then he asked whether anyone had a lighter because he needed a light. Lim suggested that he and Chanwoo talk privately. The two stepped away, leaving Chanwoo alone. Time passed. The two men remained outside, still talking. Eventually, both of them looked back towards Seonu. Seonu immediately looked away. He had no idea what they were discussing. He only assumed they would be cold when they returned, so he started a fire to keep them warm. Then he lay down nearby and waited. When Chanwoo finally returned, Chanwoo immediately commented on the cold and noticed the fire. He told Seonu that he had done a good job. Seonu asked where Lim was. Chanwoo casually said that he had buried him. Then he admitted he was joking. Lim had only gone to scout the area. Chanwoo sat near the fire and lowered his voice. He said Lim had a problem with everything. For now, Chanwoo thought it would be better to continue hiding the truth about Seonu's leg. Seonu should not make Lim suspicious. They needed Lim for the time being, especially because Chanwoo would not always be around. Seonu asked what Chanwoo meant. Then he stopped. He realized what Chanwoo was planning. Chanwoo was going ahead alone as bait. Seonu believed Chanwoo had decided that Seonu was not worth the trouble. Chanwoo was surprised that Seonu had figured it out. He called him psychic and asked why it bothered him. Seonu finally explained. As Chanwoo already knew, Seonu's parents had gone out and never returned. He believed it was because of him. Chanwoo asked why he thought that. Seonu told him the truth. He had been growing taller, and because of that, his prosthetic leg no longer fit properly. His mother and father had gone out to find a replacement. That journey had cost them their lives. They had told Seonu that growing taller was a good thing and promised that he should not worry because they would return soon. Seonu believed them. Now he wished he had stopped them from going, or at least gone with them. Of course, he knew there was probably nothing he could have done, but the questions still haunted him. Why had the blue snow frozen his parents? Why had it taken Iseo? Was growing taller really such a good thing? Seonu then explained what he was really trying to say. He would only keep outgrowing his prosthetic leg. He could not even pull his own weight. It was not worth Chanwoo putting himself in danger because of him. Instead, Chanwoo should take Seonu with him. And if they encountered the cannibals, Chanwoo should simply leave him behind. Chanwoo had already brought him far enough. Turning back was also an option. If someone had to become bait, Seonu believed it would be better to send the tail rather than the head. Chanwoo listened. Then he asked whether Seonu was depressed. He admitted that this was a problem for him because he was not a therapist and had never been good at comforting or encouraging people. Then Chanwoo offered the only answer he could think of. God loved Seonu. He loved even someone like Chanwoo. So why would he not love a young person with a disability? Seonu asked what this so-called God had ever done to help him. Chanwoo finally explained his own situation. He said he was dysfunctional. He had attachment issues and depression. He did not have enough energy to create goals of his own, so he simply piggybacked on someone else's goal. Then he revealed the real reason he had stood under the blue snow for 30 minutes. He had been tired of living. He had expected the blue snow to kill him. It simply had not. Seonu was not the only one who was messed up. Chanwoo admitted that he also had a few screws loose. What had helped him was believing that God loved him unconditionally. He needed to believe that. So Chanwoo told Seonu to try finding comfort in the idea that God loved him too, even if it seemed unreasonable. Seonu honestly admitted that he did not think God loved him. Chanwoo replied that God had sent him to Seonu because Seonu needed someone by his side. And God had sent Seonu to Chanwoo because Chanwoo needed a reason to keep going. Chanwoo said that another name for God was coincidence. Everything that had happened to them had happened by coincidence. He believed the world was made from God's love, and that all they had to do was follow the footprints in the snow. Seonu was not convinced. In his mind, Chanwoo was terrible at giving encouragement. Telling someone with a disability that they were better off with another person did not exactly feel comforting. Seonu also had no idea why Chanwoo kept talking about God when all he had said was that Chanwoo could leave him behind if necessary. Chanwoo continued talking for a while. Seonu could not really understand all of it. Chanwoo was not usually someone who talked this much. Most of the time, he only said strange things here and there. But Seonu realized that this time, Chanwoo had kept talking simply to keep him company. Then Seonu remembered the lighter he had found in the car. He handed it to Chanwoo. Chanwoo looked at it and asked when Seonu had found it. Sonu explained that he had found it together with the pack of cigarettes. It had happened by coincidence. Chanwoo stared at the lighter in his hand. Seonu quietly hoped that the coincidence Chanwoo believed in would remain on their side until the very end. Chanwoo looked at the lighter and smiled. God really does love me. Seonu continued writing in the notebook. There was not much farther to go now. He only needed to move quickly. Just as they had planned, Chanwoo headed into the danger zone first. For now, Seonu was left behind with Lim. Seonu was not exactly happy about being paired with him, but it should only have been for half a day. As they prepared to move, Lim noticed the cigarettes in his bag. He asked Seonu whether he smoked. Seonu said no. Then Lim asked why he was carrying cigarettes. Seonu explained that he had picked them up because he thought Chanwoo might smoke, but Chanwoo had told him that he did not. Lim asked Seonu to give the cigarettes to him. Seonu quietly agreed. He figured that as long as he followed Lim without causing trouble, there would be no reason for Lim to complain about him. Lim started smoking and walked ahead. After a while, he turned around and pointed toward a different route. He told Seonu to go that way. Seonu was confused. The direction Lim was pointing toward was the subway. Wasn't the plan to stay on the current path and take the longer route around? Lim explained that their destination was practically the same either way. Chanwoo should already be at the next station. The only question was whether they wanted to travel underground or through the snow. Surely Seonu would rather walk through a tunnel where there was no snow. Seonu admitted that was true, but before he could say anything else, Lim explained another advantage. Going underground might actually be safer. Even if Chanwoo managed to lure the raiders away, they could still find the tracks left behind later. Down here, Seonu would not have to worry about the blue snow. There was no wind, and the railway offered a clean, smooth path leading toward the next area. Seonu stared down the subway stairs. He still was not convinced. They did not know what was waiting below. Something could be blocking the way. Someone else could already be down there. Seonu thought it might be better to stay outside, where it was brighter and they could remain alert. Lim admitted that Seonu had a point. The raiders mostly stayed around the railway, but hardly any survivors used the subway anymore. Only the people who had managed to survive comfortably still had the luxury of relying on places like this. Seonu asked what he meant. Lim suddenly pushed Seonu down the stairs. Seonu tumbled into the subway and landed hard. He looked up in confusion. Blood covered the ground. Long trails of blood stretched through the station, and a bloody axe lay nearby. Seonu froze. Lim looked at the scene and said that if Seonu had just let him go like a decent person, none of this would have happened. Then he told Seonu not to panic. Those bloodstains were not fresh. There had not been much prey lately. Seonu asked what he meant by prey. Lim told him to stop asking questions and get it over with. It was almost time for the raiders to start patrolling. Suddenly, Seonu understood. No wonder Lim knew so much about how the raiders operated. He asked Lim whether he was actually one of those people. The same people who robbed and ate others. Seonu realized that Lim had spent all this time talking about cannibalism while secretly waiting for his chance. Seonu tried to stand. His prosthetic leg failed him. He struggled to keep his balance. Lim slowly approached. He asked whether Seonu's injury had gotten worse. Then he apologized, saying it was simply something that was bound to happen. According to Lim, Seonu had been using them too. Seonu backed away and asked what he meant. Lim pointed out that Seonu had been lying about his leg getting better. He had seen plenty of people like Seonu before. People who stayed attached to groups while suffering from sepsis or frostbite, relying on others simply to keep their own worthless bodies alive. Seonu asked whether that was what Lim called leeching. After all, Lim had survived because of their help too. Lim admitted that he appreciated being rescued, but he said they needed to be realistic. Sure, Seonu had saved him. That did not mean Lim was responsible for keeping Seonu alive. In a situation this desperate, everyone had to think about efficiency, and naturally, the more efficient person was the one more likely to survive. Seonu fell again. Lim looked down at him and called the situation tragic. He said Seonu could not even walk properly anymore, so he should stop struggling and hand over the bag. There was no reason to make things harder. Lim then grabbed Seonu's clothing and moved it aside to inspect his leg. That was when he finally understood the truth. Seonu was actually disabled. Lim suddenly realized why Seonu had been dragging a dead body around even though the little girl was not his real sister. According to Lim, Seonu had survived this long by using a fake sob story. He accused Seonu of planning the whole thing carefully and said he was surprised by how little conscience Seonu seemed to have. Apparently, though, the story had worked on that clueless blonde man. Seonu finally lost his patience. He asked why Lim kept talking when he did not even know the truth. But Lim refused to listen. He pressed down on Seonu's prosthetic leg and told him he had no time for excuses. He did not care. He was not there to babysit dead weight. Then Lim gave Seonu one final warning. He would not say it twice. Seonu clenched his fist. Then he handed over the bag. Lim took it and left. Seonu was left behind in the subway. The little girl's body was still outside, and he was now completely helpless. His prosthetic leg had begun creaking. It had already been a poor fit, but now it was completely damaged. Seonu thought that maybe he could still walk if he was careful. He would just have to brace himself against the wall. His plan was simple: get himself together, grab Iseo, then find Chan-woo. But before Seonu could move, voices came from outside. Someone had found the little girl's body. From what Seonu could hear, they were the very people Lim had warned him about. The cannibals. One of them noticed the body and said that someone must have been here. Another called it a gift they had left behind. Then someone else made a disgusting remark about whether they had started taking children now. Another man told him to take it and shut up, saying that if he did not want it, he could starve. The group moved toward the subway entrance. Seonu quickly hid behind a pillar. There were many of them, and they were coming inside. Meanwhile, the cannibals had successfully followed the trail left by Chan-woo. Chan-woo was hiding and waiting. He thought he had managed to divert a good number of those bastards, so he could not understand why they still had not arrived. It was freezing, and he was getting bored. Had they been caught? Chan-woo already knew he could not trust Lim. Then he looked through the window and spotted him. Lim was alone. But what caught Chan-woo's attention was the bag he was carrying. It belonged to Seonu. Chan-woo immediately understood what had happened. Lim had taken Seonu's bag. Chan-woo's expression hardened as he grabbed his shovel. That idiot really did not listen. Chan-woo had already warned him that if he let anything happen while he was gone, he would actually kill him. Back in the subway, Seonu was trying to fix his prosthetic leg. For a moment, it seemed to hold when he balanced himself properly. Then it gave out again. He had no idea what to do. Should he go back up the stairs and make a run for it? The cannibals might notice his footprints and chase him anyway. But whether he stayed or ran, Seonu knew he would have to reach the meeting point by himself if he wanted to reunite with Chan-woo. Walking was difficult. He was almost at the Azeo's place. But what was the point of going there anymore? He had already lost her. He could not seem to do a single thing right, and without a goal of his own to piggyback on, Seonu believed Chan-woo would probably be better off leaving him behind. Still, he knew he had a conscience. For now, he had to rely on himself. Seonu gathered what little strength he had left and started limping deeper into the subway. Then he heard voices. One man complained that he was bored out of his mind. Another asked when they would switch shifts. The first man answered that it would be at night. Then he suddenly shouted at someone to stop moving and stay still. Seonu wondered who he was yelling at. The man then spoke to someone in a softer tone, telling them to stay where they were and asking whether they had behaved nicely while he was gone. Seonu carefully looked ahead. There were many men and women tied up inside the subway. The cannibals were keeping them captive. One of the men began counting them and warned that anyone who tried to escape would be dealt with. Seonu stared at the prisoners. Why were these people being held? Were they hostages? Since these people ate humans, were the captives being kept as food? A terrifying thought entered Seonu's mind. Could the little girl be here too? He could not see very well from where he was, and trying to interfere would be extremely dangerous. For a moment, Seonu thought about the others. If Chan-woo and Lim were here, things might have been different. But then he stopped himself. Why should he try to save anyone after being abandoned like that? He knew his place. He should stay out of it. Then someone screamed. Seonu looked over and saw one of the cannibals beating a captive. He froze in shock. Another man told the attacker to keep it down because he had been trying to sleep. The man with the bat snapped that he was not the one screaming. The other man complained that he was always starting trouble just to blow off steam. While they argued, Seonu quietly moved farther into the subway. His eyes stayed on the captives. He wondered whether he could free everyone. Could the prisoners and Seonu take down those two men? He looked around. None of the captives seemed to have weapons. And if something went wrong, Seonu could get caught too. He hesitated. Then he noticed a little boy beside his mother. That sight changed something inside him. Seonu opened the door to the subway compartment and carefully crawled inside. He whispered that he was there to help. He told everyone to stay quiet and not make a sound. Then he began freeing the people inside the compartment one by one. Eventually, he reached the little boy and his mother. Seonu told the woman that he would untie her, but she needed to stay still so nobody noticed them. The boy immediately panicked. He told Seonu not to touch him. The child believed Seonu was one of the cannibals. His frightened voice was loud enough for one of the men outside to hear. The man cursed and complained that he had just been about to fall asleep. Hadn't he told the boy to shut up? The boy's mother apologized. She explained that he was still very young. The man replied that there was nothing good about that. If she did not keep the child quiet, he threatened to cut out his tongue. The mother quickly promised that she would keep him quiet and apologized again. Meanwhile, Seonu was lying low on the floor of the subway compartment, trying not to be noticed. The situation was killing him. He quietly asked the woman to calm the child down. She apologized again and said that he was a difficult kid. Then she called his name. "Minho, it's okay." But Minho was still terrified. He shouted at Seonu to stay away. Seonu warned him that they would all be in trouble if the cannibals caught them. Minho's mother tried to explain that Seonu had come to rescue them, but the boy was still scared. He said he wanted to go home. Those words stopped Seonu. He looked at the frightened child. For a moment, Minho reminded him of Iseo. She had also been terrified when Seonu first met her. Seonu slowly reached out his hand. He apologized for frightening Minho. Then he gave the boy an idea. They could think of it as a game of hide and seek. The bad guys were the ones they had to hide from. It was dark and scary, but if Minho stayed quiet and let Seonu untie him, everything would be over soon. Then Seonu promised to help him get home. Minho looked at him. Something in Seonu's words finally calmed him down. The little boy became quiet and allowed Seonu to begin untying his hands. With everyone finally free, they quietly moved behind the two cannibals. One of the survivors grabbed a fire extinguisher. Before either cannibal could react, they struck both of them over the head. Inside the subway compartment, Seonu stayed with Minho and protected the boy while the others dealt with the two men. Once it was over, the survivors finally had a moment to breathe. Minho's mother thanked Seonu. She said that if he had not come, she had no idea what would have happened to them. Another survivor admitted that he had truly thought he was going to die. Someone else said they would rather freeze to death than die at the hands of those bastards. Minho's mother looked at Seonu again and said that she did not know how he had found the courage to do all of this alone. But thanks to him, they were alive. Seonu tried to brush it off. He said he had only helped because he happened to get the chance. The survivors disagreed. They told him that what he had done was remarkable. Then they asked whether there were any more cannibals nearby. Seonu told them there was one more upstairs. The survivors immediately headed toward the stairs. Minho's mother called Seonu over and told him that they could escape safely if they stayed together. She urged him to come with them. She did not know why the cannibals were not around at that moment, but this was their chance to escape. They had no idea when more of them might appear. Seonu told them to wait, but they were already climbing the stairs. Seonu struggled to follow. His damaged prosthetic leg made every step difficult. Minho looked back at him and asked why he was not coming. Seonu admitted that climbing the stairs was difficult for him. Minho's mother asked what was wrong. Seonu simply stared at the stairs. Then he remembered Lim's words about leeching off others. He realized that he could not keep relying on people. Seonu told the woman that everything was fine. He could not go with them. There was something he needed to find first. The woman asked what it was. Seonu asked whether she had seen anyone carrying a child's body. The woman hesitated. She hated to say it, but she believed there was no hope. The people in that place were heartless and inhuman. Minho suddenly spoke up. He had seen someone carrying what looked like a sleeping girl. He said the person went toward the train tracks. Seonu immediately asked whether he was sure. Minho's mother confirmed it. She explained that the cannibals used the railway to move around. She had heard there was a place where they stored bodies. But that was also where they kept everything they classified as food. At least the people they held in the subway were kept alive. The ones taken there would not be treated the same way. The woman warned Seonu that the little girl was already dead and told him to come with them instead. They could all be safer together. Seonu thought about it. Then he turned toward the tracks. Before leaving, he told the woman that the little girl was his sister. He could not allow those bastards to keep her. He was going to lay her to rest beside their parents. He had no other choice. The woman admitted that they could not go with him. She understood how he felt, but she did not believe people were ever completely without choices. As long as they were still alive, they had to use those choices wisely if they wanted to survive. She would not stop Seonu, but she warned him that heading in that direction was almost certain suicide. Seonu continued anyway. The subway grew darker as he moved toward the tracks. He knew the danger ahead, but he kept going. Meanwhile, Chanwoo had caught up with Lim. He was furious. Chanwoo told Lim that he had been willing to risk himself for the group if Lim would simply watch Seonu for a while. But Lim had not even lasted a minute before abandoning him. Lim accused Chanwoo of intentionally hiding Seonu's disability from him. Chanwoo asked what Lim expected. Did he really think Chanwoo had simply forgotten to mention it? He had kept quiet because he already knew exactly what kind of person Lim was. Chanwoo said he should have known that Lim would abandon Seonu. Lim defended himself. He said he had only done what Chanwoo would have done eventually. Seonu was never going to make it. Chanwoo had to know that. Chanwoo's anger deepened. He had tolerated Lim's constant whining because he thought there might be some use for him. Now Lim had betrayed them. Chanwoo asked whether he was not ashamed. Then he demanded to know where Lim had left Seonu. At that moment, blue snow began falling. Lim immediately panicked. He shouted at Chanwoo and told him they needed to get inside. He urged him to move. But Chanwoo did not. Instead, he planted his shovel near his head and looked at Lim. He asked what difference the blue snow made. The real problem was that Chanwoo was about to kill Lim. Lim told him to stop pretending to be tough and get his hands off him. Chanwoo asked why Lim thought the threat was only talk. Then he pointed out how funny it was that Lim suddenly cared so much about his own life. Lim mocked Chanwoo in return, but then he stopped. Something had changed. Chanwoo asked whether Lim was already freezing up. Lim suddenly told him not to move. The cannibals were coming. Chanwoo looked at Lim in confusion and accused him of acting like a fish flopping around. He told Lim to pick a direction. Lim snapped back and told Chanwoo to have some situational awareness. He told him to look behind him. Chanwoo turned. A man was already standing over him. Before Chanwoo could react, the man struck him. One blow knocked Chanwoo unconscious. Blood splattered across the white snow. The attacker then turned toward Lim. He recognized him. He said it had been a long time and that he had not known Lim was still alive. Then he noticed Chanwoo. He asked whether Chanwoo was Lim's friend. Were they fighting together? Lim answered that Chanwoo was simply someone he was with. The man was not surprised. He said Lim always seemed to stir up trouble wherever he went. Then he suggested that they take both of them with the group for now. Lim immediately objected. He offered them all the food if they would just let him go. Then he changed his answer. He asked them to let only him go. The man laughed. He accused Lim of throwing other people under the bus again, just like the last time. Apparently, Lim had once tried to take all the hostages for himself and abandoned everyone as soon as things went wrong. The blue snow continued falling. The cannibals began preparing to move them inside. At that moment, Chanwoo slowly regained consciousness. His vision was blurry. He realized that the cannibals were dragging him away. Seonu limped deeper into the dark subway tracks. Every step became harder. His injured prosthetic leg was barely holding together, and the farther he went, the worse his limp became. But he refused to give up. Eventually, a faint light appeared ahead. Seonu pushed himself forward until he finally saw people standing on the platform holding flambeaux. Then he heard one of them speaking. The man told someone to keep rambling about whatever he had been muttering before. Now that he was actually willing to listen, why had he suddenly gone quiet? The person he was speaking to was Chanwoo. Chanwoo answered that the man was too ignorant to understand his prayers anyway. If they were going to kill him, he should just do it already. Seonu froze. Chanwoo was here, but when had he been captured? One of the men reached down and poked Chanwoo's head where he had been struck earlier. He complained that he had expected Chanwoo to be more interesting, only to discover that he was just another religious fanatic. Then the man climbed onto the platform. He told Chanwoo to finish his prayers because he would be meeting God soon, and when he saw God, he should give him their regards. The cannibals remained on the platform while Chanwoo was left down on the tracks. That was when Seonu noticed something else. The little girl's body was there too. ICO was here. Seonu stared at her body and felt completely lost. What was he supposed to do? He could not even run. If he interfered now, he would probably just get caught without helping anyone. Maybe it would be better to leave. Then Seonu looked down at his prosthetic leg. He stopped. Instead of turning back, he forced himself to walk toward Chanwoo. He quietly called his name and told him to keep his voice down. Chanwoo looked up. The moment he realized who was standing there, his expression changed. He smiled. He knew it. God really did love him. Seonu quickly asked what had happened. They were supposed to meet at the agreed location. Chanwoo explained that he had been caught in the middle of his fight by the people controlling this place. He had also seen the little girl's body and thought the cannibals had killed Seonu too. Seonu told him that he was still alive. Chanwoo said that was all that mattered. Then he asked Seonu to untie his hands. Seonu immediately began working on the ropes. They were tied extremely tightly, and getting them loose was not easy. While struggling with them, Seonu accidentally pressed against Chanwoo's injured hand. Chanwoo cried out in pain. That immediately caught the attention of the men on the platform. One of them looked down and asked what the noise was. Chanwoo quickly claimed that his foot was cramped. The man warned him to keep his mouth shut unless he wanted to die immediately. Then the men turned away and continued walking. Chanwoo began trembling from the pain. He told Seonu to be careful. His left arm was broken. Seonu apologized and asked how it happened. Chanwoo explained that he had used that arm to stop a blow that would have hit his head, but he said it did not matter right now. Then Chanwoo pointed out something near Seonu. There should be a multi-tool next to his backpack. He told Seonu to use the knife on it. Seonu looked down and found the multi-tool. He picked it up and immediately noticed something strange. Why was his backpack here? The cannibals had taken it from him earlier, and the multi-tool belonged to Lim. Seonu then looked toward another section of the tracks. Lim was tied up there as well. Seonu crawled back toward Chanwoo and asked why Lim was there. Chanwoo explained that Lim had been tied up separately. Seonu thought Lim had been on the same side as these people. Chanwoo admitted that he did not know what had happened. Apparently, Lim and the cannibals had fallen out. But Chanwoo said it was no longer their problem. They needed to take Isio's body and get out of there. Seonu cut through Chanwoo's ropes. Then he stopped. If Lim and the cannibals had fallen out, wouldn't Lim die if they left him behind? Chanwoo immediately objected. Lim was sitting directly in the cannibals' line of sight. If he suddenly disappeared, they would notice within minutes. Chanwoo told Seonu that being kind was one thing, but he was taking it too far. Why on earth would he risk everything for Lim? Seonu did not answer. He was already crawling toward Lim. Lim looked shocked when Seonu reached him. Despite everything that had happened between them, Seonu freed him too. One of the cannibals then looked toward the tracks. Something was wrong. Lim was gone. They immediately started searching for him. At the same time, Lim helped Seonu climb toward the platform. Then the sound of the search grew louder. They had noticed. Chanwoo urged Lim to move. Then he cursed him, saying that this was all his fault and that they should have left him behind. Lim shot back that Chanwoo would have been caught even without him. There was no time to argue. If the cannibals caught them, they would kill them on the spot. Lim started running, leaving Seonu and Chanwoo behind. Chanwoo shouted after him and told him to come back and help Seonu. Lim refused. How was he supposed to run while carrying Seonu? He was not going to die with them. They could get themselves caught and executed if they wanted, but Lim was not wasting another second in that corpse-ridden hellhole. Seonu's prosthetic leg suddenly gave out. He fell again. Lim stopped. For a moment, he stood there, caught between two choices. He could run and save himself, or he could go back for Seonu. The cannibals were getting closer. Lim did not know what to do. Seonu finally told Chanwoo to get out first, but before Chanwoo could move, Lim turned around. He rushed back, grabbed Seonu, and lifted him onto his shoulder. Then Lim carried him toward the stairs. As he moved, Lim warned Seonu that he should not expect any mercy. If the cannibals caught up to them, he would ditch Seonu without hesitation. Chanwoo carried the little girl's body while Lim carried Seonu, and the three of them hurried away with the cannibals still chasing them. After pushing themselves as far as they could, they finally made it out. Chanwoo celebrated, saying they had finally escaped. Lim was not in the mood to celebrate. He sarcastically replied that there was nothing to be happy about and asked what they were supposed to do now. They could not keep pushing through the snow. If they kept moving like this, they would leave tracks behind them. Chanwoo told him that he already knew. There was no point in whining because it would not change anything. Lim became frustrated. So what was Chanwoo expecting him to do? Just stand around and wait. They were going to die if something did not change. They could not keep going while carrying Seonu like this. Seonu flinched when he heard that. Chanwoo finally admitted that there was nothing else they could do for now. They needed to get inside somewhere. Lim questioned Chanwoo's idea. Was he really planning to lock himself inside a building and wait things out like he had some kind of fortress? Chanwoo said that it was still better than being gutted in the snow right that very second. A while later, the cannibals reached the building. They spotted the shovel blocking the glass door. That was enough for them to realize that Chanwoo and the others had entered the building. They immediately began trying to break their way inside. Meanwhile, Seonu slowly climbed the stairs. His damaged prosthetic leg made every step difficult. Chanwoo had already reached the rooftop. The door was unlocked. He looked around and suggested that they use the rooftop to figure out what was happening below. Eventually, all three made it to the roof. Lim looked around and immediately realized how bad their situation was. They were screwed. There was nowhere left to run. Chan Wu calmly looked around. There was nothing on the rooftop. So, for the moment, they might as well prepare to defend themselves. Lim thought that was ridiculous. How was hiding on a rooftop supposed to help? Chan Wu joked that reality offered them nothing except pain. Then Seonu noticed something below. He looked farther into the distance. There was a possible escape route. Seonu suggested jumping from the roof. It looked like it might actually be possible. Chan Wu considered it. He thought he might be able to make the jump. Lim agreed that jumping was probably better than sitting there waiting to die. But then he asked about Seonu. Chan Wu immediately said there was no problem. He would jump while carrying Seonu. God was always with him. Lim told Chan Wu that this was not the time to joke. Chan Wu asked what made Lim think he was joking. Lim pointed out the obvious problem. How could Chan Wu survive a fall while carrying Seonu? The two of them could easily fall to their deaths together. Chan Wu said there was only one way to know. They would have to try. He told Seonu to get on his back. Lim remained unconvinced. He asked whether Chan Wu really thought the two of them could survive the fall. Chan Wu admitted that they did not have another choice. Then he told Seonu again to climb onto his back. But instead of doing that, Seonu walked toward Iseo's body. He picked her up. Then he told Chan Wu to go without him. Chan Wu stared at him in disbelief. What was Seonu talking about? He told him to hurry and get on his back unless he wanted to become the next victim. Seonu refused. He said he was not oblivious. Anyone could see that Chan Wu's plan was not going to work. Chan Wu insisted that God would watch over them. That finally made Seonu snap. He told Chan Wu that there was no God. If there really were a God, Iseo would not be dead. Chan Wu already knew that. That statement silenced him. Before either of them could say anything else, a loud smashing sound came from the rooftop entrance. The cannibals had broken through. Seonu immediately told Chan Wu to go ahead without him. There was nothing else they could do. But Chan Wu suddenly grabbed Seonu and shoved him aside. He pulled a tarpaulin sheet over him and told him to stay hidden. As long as Seonu remained quiet, the cannibals would not find him. They believed only Chan Wu and Lim were on the roof. Nobody had seen Seonu hide beneath the sheet. Chan Wu ordered him not to make a sound. Moments later, the cannibals rushed onto the rooftop. They shouted that Chan Wu and Lim were cornered and demanded that they come out. Then they saw them. Chan Wu and Lim suddenly jumped from the roof. The cannibals were stunned. They could not believe the two men had actually jumped from that height. They immediately rushed back downstairs to chase them. The rooftop became quiet again. Seonu remained hidden. He realized that the cannibals really had not noticed him. He had been nervous for nothing. But then Seonu noticed something missing. Iseo's name tag was gone. He wondered when it had fallen off. It should not have mattered. He had already memorized the address. But then Seonu looked outside through the sheet. Blue snow was falling again. He tapped the sheet from the inside and stared at the snowfall. He no longer understood anything. What was the point of all this? Seonu sat there in silence with Iseo's body as the blue snow continued to fall around them. Seonu thought it was over. His prosthetic leg was barely holding together. He could feel it getting closer and closer to breaking completely, and his own strength was almost gone. There was no one left to take him in. So much had happened just to reach this point. Normally, Seonu would have written everything down in the notebook, but he no longer had the energy to record every detail. He only wrote the bottom line. He was completely alone now. Seonu looked down at Iseo's body. He could not walk any farther. His prosthetic leg was broken, and he did not even know where they were anymore. He thought he had already come far enough, so he quietly asked her, "I can't walk any farther. My leg is broken, and I don't even know where we are. I think I've come far enough. Is it okay if I stop here?" He looked at Iseo, waiting for an answer that would never come. There was only silence. In a world like this, reaching the end was frighteningly easy. The end was constantly falling from the sky. All Seonu had to do was step beyond the fabric protecting him. That had always been the plan. Get Iseo home, then he could stop. But now that he was so close, one regret remained. He had made it this far, only to feel like he could not take another step. Then Seonu noticed something in the distance, an advertisement banner hanging from a building. And suddenly, he remembered Iseo talking about Barry. "I love Barry the most." She had once asked Seonu if he knew Barry. Barry was a bunny with a pink flower on her head who had visited their neighborhood before the snow began falling. Iseo had watched her dance, sing, and clap on stage. She even had a Barry plushie waiting for her at home. It was her favorite. Her mom and dad had bought it for her on that same day. Sionnu remembered asking whether she had liked it. Iseo had smiled and said that it had made her really, really happy. Now, Sionnu looked down at the notebook. There was a drawing of Barry on the page, a simple drawing made by a little girl who had once believed that there would still be a tomorrow. Sionnu stared at it for a long time. He wondered whether there was any point in continuing. Iseo was already dead. His leg was broken. He was exhausted. He had nothing left. Sionnu slowly closed the notebook. He did not know anymore. But then another thought came to him. Even if he stepped outside and froze, what did he really have left to lose? If he had to step into the blue snow sooner or later? If every road eventually led to the same end? Then there was only one thing he could choose. At the very least, he would walk in Iseo's direction. Sionnu stepped out from beneath the sheet. The blue snow immediately surrounded him. With Iseo's body in his arms, he slowly climbed down. As he moved, memories of her returned one after another. He remembered the day she had waited for him near the traffic signal with her umbrella. She had come looking for him because she wanted to protect him from the blue snow. She had been sick, she had been scared. And still, she had gone outside to find him. Sionnu tightened his grip around her and kept moving. He remembered taking care of her when she was sick. He remembered placing a wet cloth on her forehead. He remembered promising that he would take her home. Now there was nothing left between that promise and reality except the road beneath his feet. Sionnu dragged Iseo forward with everything he had. His body was trembling, his prosthetic leg was barely functioning, every step sent pain through him. He stumbled through the frozen streets as the blue snow fell around him. But he did not stop. He used the shovel to clear a path and continued forward. Another memory came back. Iseo giving him her little 100-mark drawing. He remembered how she had once looked at the frozen people outside and imagined them like snowmen. He remembered her before the snow, before the fear, before the sickness, before the world had taken everything from her. Those memories were all he had left. So Sionnu kept walking. Eventually, he reached the building with the Barry advertisement. He stopped. Then he looked into the distance. A Christmas tree stood there. Another memory came rushing back. Iseo's last Christmas with her family. The happy little girl in those drawings felt like someone from another world. Sionnu's legs finally gave out. He dropped to his knees in the blue snow. For a moment, he simply sat there. The cold surrounded him. The snow continued falling. But then he slowly pushed himself back up. He could not stop yet. One more memory appeared in his mind. Iseo playing with her friends at Barry Castle. Sionnu looked ahead, and there it was, Barry Castle. He had actually made it this far. From the moment he had first met Iseo, from the day her parents disappeared, from the day he found his own parents frozen, from the pharmacy, the church, Chanwoo, Lim, the cannibals, the endless snow. Somehow, through all of it, Sionnu had continued moving. Now he only had to find the house. He started checking the numbers on the buildings. The first one was wrong. He kept going. Another number. Sionnu stopped. He took a breath. He remembered the drawing Iseo had made of her home, the house she had drawn in her notebook, the place she had talked about, the place she had wanted to return to. Sionnu looked again. This was it. He had finally found it. After everything, he had brought her home. Sionnu carried Iseo inside. The house was quiet. He stepped into the living room. Then he saw it. A photograph of Iseo with her family. They were smiling, happy, together. A family frozen in a moment from before the world ended. Sionnu stared at the photograph. He had spent all this time carrying her home because he had promised he would. And somehow, despite everything that had tried to stop him, he had kept that promise. Sionnu finally sat down on the floor. His strength was gone. But the journey was over. Iseo was home. And Sionnu had finally made it. Sionnu remembered how Iseo had spent so long hoping that she would one day be reunited with her family. Now, after everything he had gone through to bring her home, he finally understood how cruel that hope had been. In his notebook, Sionnu wrote about what the world was doing to him. It kept telling him to die. He was not ready to grow up yet, but he kept getting taller anyway. And with every bit of growth, walking became harder. Even taking a single step had become a struggle. But when he forced himself to keep moving, the world around him turned blue. The snowfall only became more relentless, as if the world itself was insisting that he stop. Still, Sionnu had kept his promise. He placed Iseo gently on her bed and surrounded her with her favorite toys. Then he looked at her and quietly said, "Iseo, we have arrived. This is your home." After that, Sionnu became silent. Too many thoughts were running through his head. He was done. There was no one waiting to welcome him. No warmth, no comfort, not even the feeling of accomplishment he had imagined after finally reaching this place. Was this really the end? Nobody had prepared him for what the end would look like. Nobody had told him that it would feel this lonely, this empty, this hollow, and Seonu began to wonder whether it would feel the same no matter where he went. He looked at Aiseo again. All his life, he had wondered what it meant to always be weaker than everyone else. Now, with the world closing in around him, those thoughts felt heavier than ever. Was the piercing blue air only cold because he was alone? Why did the cold seem to settle so much deeper into his lungs? He could not even run, and every breath only brought more pain. There was no future waiting for him beyond this moment. So what was the point of enduring it? Seonu carried Itseo outside once more. He laid her down in the snow to bury her. One of her favorite toys was placed beside her. He looked at the little girl he had met by chance and thought about everything she had endured. It must have been hard for her to be carried all that way on his back. Seonu apologized for putting her through it. Then he quietly told her to have sweet dreams. After that, he wrote the final words in his notebook. He was ending the record. Seonu buried Iseo. Then he sat beside her grave. For once, he did not intend to leave her behind. "I'll stay with you this time." He remained there in the snow, hoping that somehow someone would answer him. Then the blue snow began falling again. Seonu looked toward the sky. Beside him was Whoopi, the little toy dog Iseo had once promised to give him after they reached her home. He looked at it and realized that the snow would bury everything soon. He wondered how much longer it would be until he finally froze. The blue snow had been touching him for a long time already. Why did it always seem to push him forward? If he stopped moving now, eventually the snow would bury him completely. Would he be buried beneath the white snow first? Or would the blue freeze him before that happened? But Seonu had kept his promise. There was no reason to have regrets. This had always been the plan. There was no reason to be nervous anymore. He clenched his fist. Then he pulled the muffler over his face and hid himself behind a wall of snow. For the first time, the wind became quiet. It almost felt as though this was where he was supposed to be. Seonu could feel the blue snow burying him little by little. Each snowflake was tiny, yet together they felt impossibly heavy. And then he understood. This was how everyone else had frozen. The moment they felt the weight of even a single snowflake, the cold had pierced so deeply into them that their bodies could never recover on their own. Seonu had always been alone because he could never seem to match anyone else. And now, surrounded by snow, he wondered whether he was finally about to disappear too. But before he could finish that thought, someone grabbed him. Seonu was suddenly pulled out from beneath the snow. It was Chan Wu. He was not alone. Lim was there too. And behind them were many of the people Seonu had rescued back in the subway. Chan Wu shouted at Seonu, demanding to know what he thought he was doing. Seonu was frozen stiff. Chan Wu urged him to stay awake and not fall asleep. He immediately began preparing a fire. Lim moved closer and gave Seonu something to cover himself with. He asked whether Seonu could stand. Seonu barely understood what was happening. Then he saw her. Standing in front of him was Iseo. She was there just as he remembered her, and around her neck was her name tag. Seonu stared at it. The little girl had once given it to him, and in that moment, everything he had been holding back finally broke. Seonu began to cry. After walking through the snow believing he had been completely abandoned, he was no longer alone. The people he had saved had come back for him. And for the first time in a long time, Seonu was surrounded by people who refused to let him disappear. Once Seonu's body had finally thawed, he went with the other survivors to their village. From a distance, he could see the sea. The village was nestled beside the biggest blue in the world. It was not a place where everything was suddenly peaceful, but neither was it a place of despair. The snow still kept piling up. The difference was that people were there to clear it. After everything that had happened, Seonu's first thought was that he might be kicked out again. He had already experienced what it was like to be unwanted, so he could not help expecting the same thing here. The mother of the little boy noticed his expression and asked what was wrong. Seonu admitted that he was not sure whether he would be allowed to stay. He was an outsider after all. The woman immediately told him that of course he could stay. He was the one who had saved all of them. She was sure everyone would be happy to see him. Seonu asked what she meant by they. The woman simply told him that he should go and meet them. Seonu followed her. Then he finally saw them, Iseo's parents. He approached them and handed over the toy dog Whoopi along with Iseo's name tag. For a moment, Seonu's mind went completely blank. He could barely remember what he said. All he knew was that he had failed to protect their daughter, and after finally bringing her home, he had buried her himself. The moment her parents learned what had happened, they began to cry. Seonu could do nothing but apologize. Again and again, he felt as though every choice he had made had been the wrong one. But instead of blaming him, Isao's mother and father reached out and hugged him. Seonu was relieved. They had not gotten angry with him. They even agreed that someday they would go and see Isao together. Later, Seonu sat inside one of the village buildings with Isao's parents, Lim and Chan-woo. Isao's father was examining Seonu's damaged prosthetic leg. He said it would be difficult to repair. Isao's mother suggested reinforcing one part with metal, but her husband immediately rejected the idea. The joint would not be strong enough to hold. Seonu then explained that the prosthetic did not fit him properly anymore anyway. He had grown, so even if they repaired it, he would not have been able to use it for long. He told them it was fine if they could not fix it. But Chan-woo had another idea. Why not make him a completely new one? Seonu was stunned. Isao's father explained that building a transforming prosthesis from scratch would not be easy. Chan-woo admitted that he knew it would be difficult. It would not be anything close to a real leg, but even a rough imitation would be better than having only one leg. Isao's father considered it. He said he could take the damaged prosthesis apart and try to copy it, but he was not sure how he would actually make the new one work. Lim immediately raised another problem. Did they even have the tools and materials needed to attempt something like that? Chan-woo called him a buzzkill. Lim defended himself. He was not trying to ruin the idea. He was simply being realistic. Chan-woo then asked what Lim would say if they actually did have the tools. Lim thought for a moment. He admitted that he knew how to make a few things and could lend a hand if necessary. Chan-woo was surprised. He had spent so long believing there was nothing left for him. But now, the things he had already given up on were being picked up again by other people. While the others continued discussing how to repair the prosthetic and where they could work on it, Seonu remained quiet. He could not tell whether he was happy or uncomfortable. He simply watched from the side. These unfamiliar figures were moving around him in their own unique ways, each contributing something. For the first time, Seonu was not the only one carrying the weight. Eventually, everyone began heading outside. Chan-woo told Seonu to get some rest while they were gone. Seonu agreed. After they left, he sat alone and thought. In a world where life was difficult for everyone, was there really any meaning to all of this? Even if he managed to survive one day after another, what did any of it mean? Then he heard someone sneeze from another room. Seonu got up and went to investigate. Inside, a little boy was sleeping with a cold. Seonu looked at him. Could meaning really be found again? He opened his bag and pulled out the medicine he had originally gone to find for Isao when everything first began. This time, he gave it to the little boy. The boy swallowed it and complained that he was done. Seonu told him he had done a good job. Now he just needed to close his eyes and go to sleep. He would feel better soon. Seonu watched the child settle down. In the aftermath of all the despair, fear, and pain caused by the blue snow, he had almost given up. Yet somehow, when he was at his lowest point, he had arrived at a place where the blue world stretched endlessly around him, and people were still trying to survive together. Then, someone called his name. It was Chan-woo. Chan-woo looked at Seonu and remarked that he got around pretty well on one leg. So why make a new prosthetic when he was already doing fine without one? Seonu asked seriously about the workshop. Did they really have the tools they needed? Chan-woo said they did. The others wanted Seonu to come in later so they could take his measurements. According to Chan-woo, the person working on the prosthetic was pretty skilled. He told Seonu to stay on the man's case and make sure he did a proper job. Then Chan-woo mentioned that he had heard the sea was frozen over. But as the two of them stood looking into the distance, it was clear that was not true. The sea stretched before them. Seonu asked Chan-woo what he was going to do now. Chan-woo said he would simply have to latch on to the next coincidence that came his way. Seonu realized what he meant. Chan-woo was leaving. Chan-woo told him not to make that long face. A buy-one-get-one deal did not last forever. Still, he would not leave until his arm had completely healed. Seonu warned him not to expose himself to the blue snow for too long. If Chan-woo was alone, there would be nobody there to thaw him out. Chan-woo simply smiled. He said it was fine. He was never truly alone. God's love was always with him. Then he told Seonu to keep going. He had to make sure he did not freeze. As the waves struck the shore, Seonu looked down at his feet. Then he raised his eyes toward the world ahead. Everything had changed constantly. And again, Seonu had found himself alone. His old records were depressing to read. They were like the footprints of someone who had become lost, with no hope of ever being found. He still did not know which path he was supposed to take, But there were many pages left in his notebook. Each new page was daunting. He had no idea what would end up being written on them. But maybe, from this point forward, he could fill them with better things. Back in the workshop, Isio's father examined Sionu again. He remarked that Sionu must have grown a lot. The new prosthetic was noticeably different from his other leg. It must have been incredibly difficult for him to make it this far. Sionu looked at the prosthetic. For so long, he had thought that slow and unsteady steps meant he was falling behind everyone else, but now he understood something different. Even shaky steps could become meaningful. As long as he kept moving, as long as someone could find meaning in what he had experienced, as long as he took everything one page at a time and refused to look away from the things that needed to be seen. Then, Sionu made his decision. He wanted to make his own leg. Lim would not always be there to build him another prosthetic every time it broke. And someday, Sionu might meet other people like himself who still wanted to walk. When that happened, he wanted to be able to make their legs too. Sionu finally understood that there was nothing wrong with being slow. He would keep walking, little by little, step by step, and perhaps, somewhere along the way, he would meet someone else who had become lost. Maybe coincidence would bring them together. And when that happened, Sionu hoped he would reach them in time to help unfreeze another lost soul in the blue, simply by following their footprints in the snow.